Hey everybody! Welcome back to more Great Ace Attorney Chronicles 2 Resolve. I know Chronicles isn't really in the name. We continue with the maybe second half of the first episode, The Adventure of the Blossoming Attorney. Typewriter is so loud and aggressive. Oh gosh, how did I do your voice? I'm so sorry, Susato. No, that's close enough. I should have told you about the toxin. Ray. You have a strong sense of responsibility, I know. That's why you decided to shoulder the burden alone. No, that's not it at all. I was scared of my failure coming to light, that's all. So I hoped to retrieve the substance from the Englishwoman before anyone found out. Before the trial started, do you remember what you said, Susato? That you had no doubt in your mind about my innocence. That you'd stand by me to the last. I remember. And yet I didn't deserve your trust in me. I hid important details for you, Susato. I completely betrayed your faith in me. Hit me, Susato. I deserve it. No, in fact, throw me to the floor. Well, if you insist. No, that's too good for me as well. Drag me through the city streets. I'm no better, you know. Oh! Even though, in my heart, I knew you pulled the knife blade from Miss Brett's back. It was just a brief moment when, in my mind, I doubted you. Susato! I'm sorry. After I stood here and promised you that I'd stand by you and always be on your side, I betrayed your faith in me, too. And as such, I failed you as a lawyer. Oh, no! I think this situation has taught both of you a valuable lesson. Placing your unbridled faith in another is no easy task. Yes, Father. That fact has certainly struck home. Which is why I can see more clearly now. So, Ray. Yes? Can you find it in your heart to forgive me? Oh, Susato! You know you'll always be a gallant, dashing lawyer in my eyes now. Oh, Ray. Will you do an audio reading of Lord of the Rings, Quinn? I can barely get through these streams. Now, an audio reading of Dune. Maybe I'll make that a channel point reward. Donate so many channel points and I'll have a stream where I just read Dune. Maybe. Not right now, though. We're doing law stuff. I was so scared, you know, when it happened. I didn't know what was going on. The Englishwoman was sitting at the back of the hut, listening to what I was saying. I know it was you that stole the poison! Well, no, whatever do you mean? And then a moment later, she suddenly got to her feet. And fell. Before collapsing on the floor in front of me, with a knife in her back. Yeah, that came from the very clear hole in the wall of the hut that I assume we're not going to touch upon for another 30 minutes. Yeah, no, we found out who took the pictures. It was actually the reporter that was poking around Soseki.
Which, you know, that was fun. It was nice just having the guy popping up the background actually be someone involved in the case. But at the same time, we haven't gotten to the point where we can point out the hole in the hut was where the knife came from.
It all happened right before my eyes.
And you're the only people in the hut at the time?
That's right. Just Miss Brett and myself. There was no one else. So I just don't understand how she possibly could have been stabbed like that.
Through the hole in the hut. A great mystery indeed.
I still can't believe it happened. That's why I couldn't bring myself to speak up.
It will be all right. However it happened, and whatever really went on by the sea that day, I promise you that I'm going to prove everything you've said, what you saw was true, is true. Spoken like a true Migatoba. Now I think we should discuss what's coming up in the trial, don't you? We don't have much time. We must make sure we have our facts in order.
Yes.
I expect the poison is going to come under close scrutiny in the upcoming proceedings, since the knife was just introduced as evidence. The police should hopefully have identified it on the blade by now.
The trouble is, it's a completely new laboratory synthesized blend of alkaloids. The police won't have any way of testing for it.
Oh, I see. I mean, if they're alkaloids... Okay, first of all, let me say this. The closest brush I've had with chemistry was AP Chemistry in high school, and I actually failed that class. So, to that mind, if you tell me that the poison is a synthesized blend of alkaloids, wouldn't the whole concoction still be alkaline? Therefore, if you were to just test for the acidity of anything on the blade, you'd either have the blood or the poison. And is blood acidic or basic? I figured it'd be pretty close to pH neutral since it's water, or so much of it is water. Someone who knows chemistry better than me, let me know how wrong that was. Yes, without this chemical reagent, it's impossible to detect the toxin. Well, why do you have it? Did you give it to the cops?
Chemical reagent?
I sent a colleague of mine off with some earlier to deliver it to... Okay, there we go. It's like, I just happen to have it up my sleeve. I think perhaps you should have some as well, though. Just in case. Why are you giving this to me? Okay, sure. Whatever. We already had special science be brought up in a courtroom once before, and it did not help, but I'll keep it. Oh, a Monkbot asking, Quinn, have you always been a private attorney for TFS, or have you done anything that required big trials or stuff like that? For most of my career, I have been TFS's general counsel, but I also did intern with a few courts, both state and federal level, and witnessed a couple of cases. I wouldn't say anything was too big. The most notable thing I saw in state court was a lawsuit against a... how do I describe it in this short summary? A very a guy who owned a bunch of properties, renting them out for low cost. Dealing with accusations that he was a slumlord, keeping things below standard policy, and not only did he have to deal with the city of Dallas trying to bring his properties up to code, but the fact that he was kind of strong-arming his tenants into keeping the inspectors out, mainly because he was threatening to drive up rent. And that took a couple of weeks. Nope. If you're bringing up a name, you probably don't know them. They're not that popular. It's really only Dallas. And even then, I didn't know the guy until the case was brought up.
What's the matter? What's the matter, Susato? You've suddenly very quiet.
It's this newspaper article. Exclusive. Deadly poison stolen from Humane Medical Research Laboratory. I'm wondering how the information got out, given that it was a government secret.
It was all the English women's doing!
What?
It was when the professor and Soseki-san were being interviewed in the laboratory. The so-called English lady swanned in without any compunction, said to Professor Mikotoba. Oh, Professor, surely your guest would love to hear about your work on that substance there.
It put me in a very awkward position, to be frank. But Soseki-san's curiosity had been piqued, so I had little choice but to give him a cursory introduction. So then Soseki-san knew about the poison. And the reporter's been hounding Soseki-san. Obviously the reporter's involved. Yes, and it's highly likely. Whoopsie, not that button. But the reporter who was writing up the story about us would have caught a glimpse of the toxin too. Okay, good. We're not gonna have to deal with that. This many gosh, not this again. This many memo-san. By the way, did that reporter join you all when you went to the beach?
Oh! No, I don't remember the reporter being there.
Indeed, he shouldn't have been. I very much doubt anyone would have wanted him there. Oh? A known criminal has been given permission by the authorities to bathe by the seaside. Soseki-san pointed out that inviting a reporter might be problematic, so the man was sent back to his office. Yet he obviously didn't go back. He secretly followed the party to the beach and took this very candid photograph. And then presumably he posted it anonymously to the police.
Oh!
Yes, that must be what happened. Counsel! We've just heard that the new witness is now ready to testify. The trial's about to resume. Please proceed into the courtroom at once. It's time to steel ourselves once again, then. Defense attorney, RYUTARO Naruhodo.
Yes!
Ray has put her faith in me now and told me everything. So I can't let her down. I have to prove that she's I have to prove that what she's telling the court is true. I have to prove what really happened that day. Back into the courtroom. Man, that gavel noise is very unsatisfying. It seems like they're just using the same audio file from the very first game. I hereby call this court to order as we reconvene to continue the trial of Ray Mimbami. Prosecutor Ouchi, have you summoned the new witness?
Before I address that question, Your Excellency, I have some very important news to share.
Oh? News. And why does he look so happy about it?
The reporter, Many Memo, is now dead.
Oh.
During the recess with the collaboration of Professor Mikotoba's laboratory at Yume University, the police re-examined the knife that was used to end Miss Giselle Brett's life.
Let me guess, you didn't find a poison on it. Excellent. I admire your rapid handling of the matter.
Oh, too kind, Your Excellency, too kind. I was merely carrying out your instructions, of course.
I had the reagent delivered to police headquarters by rickshaw, so it would be there in good time. But judging by that man's swagger, I think we might need to brace ourselves for the inevitable. And, Counsel, what were the results?
This dagger, which was so cruelly used to end the life of the victim, has no trace of poison anywhere along its blade.
What? Are you sure about that?
I would stake the reputation of the police on it. Not my clan, just the police.
Armed with the reagent, the test is extremely simple. I couldn't have made a mistake. The murder weapon has finally been entered into the court record.
In short, the accused's feeble excuse earlier has been utterly destroyed.
Even though she could still think there was poison on the blade.
Ah! That sounded like a girl voice. Now the prosecution is ready to call the new witness.
Actually, before you even get to that point, let's take a nice look at this blade, shall we? Yep. That is a blade. Ah, yes, this must be the victim's blood. Oh dear. Blood is never a pretty sight, is it? Having to fight the urge to run under a hot tap and get it clean. To run it under a hot tap and get it clean. You've always been fastidious about cleanliness, haven't you? I think this is something else, Father. Is there going to be a secret compartment in this blade? Is that it? I noticed there's a screw here. But that could easily just be to fasten the blade to the handle. Alright, well that's that. Father, what did you write here? Your handwriting's is as legible as ever. The label appears to be written in a foreign language that I don't know. It's German, so your knowledge of English is going to be of little help here, I'm afraid. Hey, English is a Germanic language. There's some similar stuff there. Couldn't you have written medicine on it in Japanese? Then we'd all be able to read it. German is the international language of medicine, my dear. Is it? Was it? I mean, I know Germany's made a lot of advances in medicine, but I feel like this is an accurate statement. But yes, I can certainly see the merit of labeling the bottle in Japanese. There's room for 2 languages on that label. Well, I'm not sure medicine would be entirely appropriate. I'm just gonna invert the bottle here. Alright. Ah, the newspaper reporter who managed to capture a photograph at the crucial moment. Good. Oh, great, I have to come up with a new voice. Very well, officer. Bring in the witness. No trace of poison on the knife. But if that's really the case, how could the toxin have entered the victim's body? Through the pen. The pen was mightier than the sword. Fucking hell.
Witness, state your name and occupation to the court. For the court, too.
Writing many memo of the shield. Oh god. No, I wanna do something like that, but I don't think I can do it consistently. Thinking old-timey 1920s reporter, obviously now 1900s. Right in many men of the show you news. I'm what people like to call a journo. What's a journo, Father? Do you know? It's simply a contraction of journalist. I'm there when the news breaks, putting pen to paper to catch those scoops so they're in print the next morning. They don't call me the hero of the Herald for nothing. The nice guy of news. Oh, so, it was you who took this photograph, was it? Well, what do we have here? I'm sorry? Ooh, brace yourselves, people! Memo senses a scoop in the offing! Female student up to foul play defended by curiously handsome young lawyer in Supreme Court. The readers will lap this up. I will set above the fold and find 75.5948 money edition. Huh? Right then. Let's start with your name. Oh, it's RYUTARO Naruhodo. Next, what made you to become a lawyer? Made you want to become a lawyer? Well, I wanted to reform our country's legal system, I suppose. RYUTARO has suddenly become very ambitious, I see. I just borrowed Kazuma-sama's dream for a while.
By the way, the name is Takasuchi Auchi. It's Takasuchi Auchi. The so-called dark horse of the Supreme Court. My objections strike fear to every defense lawyer's heart.
By the way, someone was asking. Yeah, very clearly an ink stain on his hand, despite the fact that he's writing in pencil. No, the readers won't buy that. What? Witness. Yes? What this court demands to know is whether or not you were responsible for the taking of this picture. It was delivered anonymously to the Imperial Police Bureau only yesterday. Yeah, I wouldn't be a journo if I didn't click quick when presented with a scoop like that now, would I? Sometimes stories call out to me, sometimes I have to chase them down. By the way, you've got to be fast. Fast legs run with, and a fast hand to write with. That's no good if you don't write it down, I always say. That's what I call my many-memoism. Many-memoism? Oh yes, I remember your face. We met that day when you were interviewing myself with Enso Seki-san. Yes, right, that was me! Memo again! But you were supposed to be going back to the Shoyu News offices after our meeting. Okay, fine, I'll use a spacebar now. But the scoop is, I didn't! Because that Englishwoman's words had piqued my journalistic interest. Miss Brett's words? A criminal, left to do as she pleases just because she happens to be a British citizen? It's horse dung! This country's judiciary is rotten to the core! The Supreme Court's rulings aren't worth the paper they're written on! The police are just imperial pawns! Stay your tongue, young man! There are complex political issues at play! Well, anyway, I quickly jotted down those words she said in my memo pad. Are you ready? I'll read it out. It's all right here. Right, here it goes. Now, is that you or the English woman? I should like to go with everyone to see your country's coast. No, okay, if it's your country, it must be her. So it must sound like... I should like to go with everyone to see your country's coast. A serious criminal going on some junket? Those people need to know about this. That's why I decided to sneak after them. To get the woman's story so I could hammer in the press. Do you mean to say that you did indeed witness it firsthand? The grim scene portrayed in this photograph? Oh yes, I saw it with my very own journo eyes! From start to finish, through the viewfinder of my trusty camera! Thank you, Memo-san. You will now give your formal testimony before the court. You will state exactly what it is that you witnessed of the events surrounding Miss Brett's death. The camera never lies. But it can rob a scene of context. The beach hut was made of shoddy old reed screen, so there were plenty of gaps that I could see through. The Englishwoman was sitting on a stool when the student girl came in and started arguing with her. Seconds later, the girl pulled out a knife, throwing the Englishwoman to the floor as she stabbed her in the back. My smoldering journal spirit burst into flames. Quick as a flash, I whipped out my camera ready to click. I pulled apart the rough weave of one of the screens and poked the lens through for a perfect shot. Read screens, you say? Right! You can see them clearly through that great shot I snapped. The hut walls were just screens made of coarsely woven reeds. Yes, it allows the breeze to pass through and bring some relief from the summer heat. And it was a breeze for me to poke my camera through and see the whole thing hotting up. Ignoring for the time being the impolite invasion of privacy involved, did you witness everything that happened from the moment the defendant entered the hut? Oh yes, I saw it. I saw the whole thing from start to finish. Did you say that you took the photograph through a gap in one of the screens? Luckily for me, they were pretty shoddily woven. I pulled the reeds apart and thrust the lens of my camera through the gap. Would I get away with it, or would I be seen? It was a gamble of a lifetime. The tenacity of purpose that's considered admirable in a journalist, I suppose. Run a risk one day, run a scoop the next. That's a meme-menoism in a nutshell. That's meme-menoism. Oh god. I hate this guy's name. At last. It would appear we have a genuine witness to this wicked crime. The evidence and testimony are extremely compelling. I believe we may close to a verdict. No! Wonderful news, Your Excellency. Wonderful. Nevertheless, it cannot be denied that this testimony begs one very large question. What question? Exclusive news, a startling photograph. All the makings of an exceptional story for the reporter. Why then was the story never published? Oh, that's right. It seems clear to me that there are circumstances at play here that are yet to be understood. Ha! More pathetic excuses. Very well then, counsel. Proceed with your cross-examination. Yes, Your Excellency. There's more to this reporter than meets the eye. He's keeping something about this case very close to his chest. Like his straps. Sparkamus, thank you for the 40-month resub. I mean, that we know. That's fine. Let's start here.
Hold it!
Do you swear before this court that you actually saw the precise moment when the stabbing took place? Ha! The precise moment? I didn't see just that! I saw the whole hellish scene play out from start to finish. I have here a simple plan of the beach hut. Perhaps you could use it to explain to the court exactly what you witnessed? Yeah, I gotta get a few snaps of this guy, even if he's not stretching out his straps. Right you are! It's all here in my memo pad! When I first peered into the hut, I'm sure that the Englishwoman was on this stool at the back of the hut here. Yes, the accused's own testimony confirmed that. She just sat at the back of the hut, smiling sweetly, is what I have noted down. It's my turn to testify now. Try not to interrupt. Then the next moment, as I was watching, the evil student girl entered the hut. After a while, the pair of them ended up in the middle of the hut, arguing furiously. The Englishwoman went for the student, but the girl dodged out of the way. And in a flash, plunged the knife into her adversary's back as the two passed each other. What you describe is a grim crime indeed. Also could be construed as self-defense if she attacked first. Never sugarcoat the truth! That's what many memoism says! Of course, what you failed to describe was your point of view, which we know is right behind Brett. By the way, Memimeno-san, whilst you were watching that terrible scene unfold before your eyes through the gap on the screen, did it not occur to you to try to prevent the tragedy rather than capture it on film? Journos have to be observers. We can't get involved. That's our raison d'etre. So you didn't converse with Miss Brett at all? Obviously not. An observer always remains on the outside looking in. And that's something to be proud of, is it? Your Excellency, if I may. Yes, Professor. I think the witness's last expertly phrased statement should perhaps be added into his formal testimony. Father, what are you... I will grant the defense's request. Memimeno-san, you will supplement your formal testimony with the aforementioned statement. Well, nihilism is the foundation of many memoism. But I'll gladly prove that my words aren't meaningless. There's one with his arms out. Ooh. Okay, but wait, what did you skip? You don't even know that pose right there. You don't know what the camera would see. Oh my gosh. Hold on. What would... They thought RM was Ray Membami. It's right in Memi Memo. Yeah, no, hold on. Then why the fuck is this pen here?
Objection!
Memimeno-san, until now, I've had a firm belief that newspapers are in the business of uncovering and publishing the truth. You're spot on there! The press doesn't lie, which is why I'm proud to wear the emblem of Shoyo News on my arm. And that's the symbol on the bottom of the pen. Yeah, I didn't even look at the armband, I was just focused on the RM. In a way, that's more Memimemoism. Sadly, though, it seems the journalists who write for those papers don't always share the same passion for truth. What? What are you suggesting with those recriminatory words, Counsel? Memimeno-san, do you recognize this fountain pen? Duh! This pen was found at the scene of Miss Brett's death. In fact, the murdered victim was gripping it in her hand as she died. What are you? If you look at the barrel of the pen, you'll notice that its owner's initials are engraved there. R.M. Yes, thank you for bringing that up, Counsel. The initials of the accused, Ray Membami. Is it a coincidence, I wonder, that your initials are also R.M.? No! Writin' Memimemo. R.M. That's horse dung! Can't you see? One of those central tenets of Memimemo is being a pencil user! And yet, as the court will clearly be able to see, on your right hand, there's a very obvious blue ink stain. It would appear that you must have rather carelessly left it somewhere recently. Your favorite fountain pen, that is. Horsey horse dung! Memimemo-san, is it not the case that before she died, you met with Giselle Brett in that beach hut?
Objection!
But why should we listen to this absurd nonsense? It's nothing but another excuse.
Exactly! Shoyo News will stand behind me all the way. I deny everything. There must be as many people with the initials RM as there are stars in the night sky. The defense has neither the time nor the inclination to count every star in the sky. Hmm? And there's no need anyway, because this pen has more to tell. Yes, there is another clue. A clue that undeniably proves who its owner really is. In that case, counsel, the defense will show the court where this alleged clue lies. Of course, Your Excellency. The clue on this fountain pen that clearly reveals its owner's identity is... Weep. Beep-whoop.
Got it!
As well as the initials, there is also an emblem on this fountain pen. An emblem that you will of course recognize, Memimeno-san. Goodness me, it's the emblem of the Shoyu News! In other words, the owner of this pen is an employee of the Shoyu News, whose initials are RM. Suddenly the stars in the night sky don't seem so numerous, do they? Well, Memimeno-san, how do you respond? No! Order. Explain yourself, witness. Ha ha ha! So, this is how the mighty Supreme Court works, is it? Using coercive tactics to have well-meaning citizens reveal harmless secrets? I've used nothing but honest tactics. Alright then, fine! I won't try to hide it anymore! Yes, not long before that grim tragedy unfolded. I, a Shoyu News reporter, on behalf of the public, conducted an interview with the Englishwoman. An interview? You never mentioned this before! When exactly was this? As I said, it was before that evil little student girl showed her face in the hut. It couldn't have lasted more than 2 or 3 minutes, that's all. It was just a brief exchange. But it came to nothing. And as we Memimoists say, the people don't pay their dues for unworthy news. However insignificant you deem it to be, this court cannot overlook the meeting between yourself and the victim. You will testify now under oath about the precise nature of this meeting and what transpired. Got it! Yes, all right, but on one condition. Condition? In all good conscience, I couldn't speak out alone about this. You need to call back the earlier witness, Soseki Natsume-san. Soseki-san? Oh yes, according to my notes here, that man has a secret of his own. And brace yourselves, because it's not a harmless one. It's big! What? What? Memiwism states that one man's secret is every other man's front page story. Wait, did I skip something? I looked away for a sec. Nope. I feel like that statement comes out of nowhere. Very well, I will grant the witness's request in this instance. Officer, summon the earlier witness back to the stand. Soseki-san, hiding something? That's totally believable. Witness testimony. I asked the Englishwoman for an interview, but she declined, so I left the hut without making a fuss. That took 2 to 3 minutes. Then, watching secretly from outside, I saw the woman being stabbed and the other witnesses come running. The detective realized that the victim still had a pulse, so he ran off to fetch help. That's when this writer man asked the woman a very significant question. But he didn't say anything about that in his testimony, which is why many memoism demands I reveal it now. You mean to say the victim? The victim regained consciousness?
And when she did, you decided to ask her a question?
That's, true, yes. He did. And that's not all. The woman gave him a very definite answer. An answer that incriminates the accused.
This is preposterous. Why am I only hearing about this now? Why didn't you mention this before, you yokel hack?
It wasn't even a conversation. Yes, I did pose the whether English rose a question. I don't deny it. But she could no longer speak. She was barely conscious, even. Counsel for the defense, I expect a thorough cross-examination to be conducted here. This court must and will know the truth. Absolutely, Your Excellency.
Why is this my job? The reporters claim that Miss Brett implicated race somehow? What on earth could have happened in that hut?
Cross-examination. Alright, well there's nothing hinging on this, so I guess we'll go with the default tactic of pressing everything.
Hold it!
Especially since he said, I went in there, she declined an interview, and I left, and he said that took 2 to 3 minutes.
You asked her for an interview, you say?
Well, of course I did. I wanted to ask her about the incident she was involved in at the end of last year.
About the case in which John H. Wilson lost his life?
That's not the way I phrased it. Meminism calls for straight talking. Why did you murder Dr. Wilson? Is how I put it to her.
Yes, that sort of talking is as straight as a ruler.
Not every question as if you're asking for a menu at a restaurant, I say. Ask every question as if you're asking for a menu in a restaurant, I say. That's the best way. A veteran at the paper taught me that.
And how did Miss Brett answer?
With one simple phrase. Mystery is a woman's charm. Woo! That told me. So I waltzed right out of there.
Really? Something about that doesn't quite seem to fit together.
Leave every room as if you're waltzing in a dance hall, I say. That's the best way. A veteran at the paper taught me that.
Hold it!
That was very persistent of you, considering that Miss Brett had just turned you away.
Persistence wins the prize! Any memoirist would tell you that. Let them think you've left, and just when they lower their guard, that's when you swoop in for the scoop.
And the fruits of your labor are all too apparent in this telling photograph. Though I'm sure the young yokel student would rather not be reminded of this damning evidence. Actually, that's thanks to that photograph that we managed to identify this witness.
And now that you found me, I'll tell you whatever you need to know. Want to know, even. I've got nothing to hide.
I'm sure. Please do go ahead, witness. The court is eager to hear what you have to say.
Try to stop me! There's a story to tell here, and I'm going to tell it.
Hold it!
And Soseki-san remained behind in the hut?
That's right, yep. Our author friend here was a blathering wreck, shaking all over from his head to his toes, mustache swirling, eyes bulging. What do you expect? You don't know the terrifying troubles that taunted me whilst traveling abroad. Back behind Bayful bars. They're coming for me, surely. That's all I could think. I felt as though they were gasping for air, drowning in a sea of cold sweat.
Poor Soseki-san, his experiences in London have scarred him deeply.
As the world seemed to close around me, I quietly recited a prayer and to Diaboda. Eternal emptiness, empty eternity. The end is coming for me, surely. No sutras are to resound in my courtroom, please. And now we come to the crucial part. That's when it happened.
Hold it!
What question? What exactly did he say? Well now, you should hear that from the horse's mouth, I think. Don't you, Mr. Riderman?
Ugh! Out with it, you yokel hack! What did you say to her? What did you say to the dying Englishwoman?
Well, in truth, I've been catching crabs at the water's edge and building castles in the sand, you see.
Well, the seaside is a place to be at leisure, I suppose, even for a grown man.
But then all of a sudden, from that little beach hut, a young girl's panic-stricken cries for help pierced the air.
Hooray!
I ran up to the beach to see what was happening and to find the defendant leaning over the collapsed victim. As soon as Inspector Hosanaga saw Miss Brett on the ground, he sprinted off to get help. And then, just a moment later, I heard a faint moan. A moan from the dead Englishwoman.
I nearly jumped out of my skin!
But what did you ask her, Soseki-san?
I asked her, who did this to you?
Don't protract this any longer. How did the woman respond?
She didn't! She said nothing in response! But...
When in the stand, you will answer the questions asked of you unambiguously. Now, without evasion or reticence, I demand that you amend her testimony.
I will! I asked her who did this to you, but she never replied.
Hold it!
So you tried to find out who the culprit was.
He who asks the question is a fool for a minute. He who does not remains a fool forever. And having been labeled a criminal twice during my time in Great Britain, I was quick to make up my mind. Better be a fool for a minute than remain a fool in prison forever.
However, you've indicated that the victim failed to respond, is that correct?
I know why the Englishwoman said nothing. She was ignoring me because of my stupid mustache, because I'm Japanese.
Oh dear, Soseki-san has really developed a dislike for the English, it seems. Having read the report of his time in Great Britain, I can't say I'm surprised at his xenophobia. But the Englishwoman didn't ignore you at all! Did she, Mr. Riderman?
Well, yes, all right. She did respond in a manner of speaking, I suppose. She just lifted a trembling finger and pointed in the direction of the defendant.
Hold it!
Miss Brett pointed a finger at the defendant? Soseki-san, is that really true?
It's not easy to stand here and say this, but when we first entered the beach hut, the Englishwoman was sprawled on the floor before us, with the student girl standing on the far side of her. When I asked, who did this to you? The Englishwoman summoned her last ounce of strength to point at the trembling finger at the back of the hut, where she was sitting, where there's a hole, where the reporter stabbed her. Ugh. Which was, it can't be denied, in the direction of the student girl who stands accused today.
No. Soseki-san, why on earth did you neglect to mention this in your original testimony?
But, fiddlesticks, I say!
This is not a British court of law. You will respond in Japanese.
Yes, of course! The Englishwoman did point her finger towards the back of the hut, but I was trembling, and, she was trembling, and everything was a blur. And thinking about it, I feel as though perhaps she was pointing in a slightly different direction. Actually, no! Not slightly! It was in a very different direction to where the student girl was standing. To somewhere else in the back of the hut, where nobody was standing at all.
You mean that your memory of events and the direction in which the victim was pointing are both unclear?
Yes, that's it! Unclear! And very, very unclear.
Objection!
Your Excellency, surely this proves the matter beyond all reasonable doubt.
He just conditioned his statement against it being implicating?
Yes, the woman may barely have been conscious, and yes, perhaps her finger wavered slightly.
That sounds like reasonable doubt to me.
But there can be no doubt that this was an attempt by the victim to confirm the identity of her assailant. Why? Because as the court can see, there was no one other than the accused in the direction the victim was pointing. It is now abundantly clear that no one besides the accused could possibly have committed this crime.
I am inclined to agree. And in the absence of any credible argument to the contrary, I believe we can now conclude this trial.
No! No!
The headline's writing itself! Dashing lawyers hopes dash 92 point across the whole page. We'll do an extra edition. This is a serious blow, Susato. Unless we're able to identify the true culprit and substantiate our claim with evidence, the judge will give his ruling and the trial will be over. But that's impossible, Father. We don't even know how the crime was committed yet. Impossible though the task may seem, we have no choice. We must think back over everything we've learned thus far. Somewhere in all those details, I'm confident we'll find the clue we need. Ray gave us her account of how events unfolded in the defendant's antechamber before the trial resumed. She told us what happened at the precise moment Miss Brett was killed. Yeah, she said all that stuff in that kind of high-pitched voice that I don't like doing. And then she got stabbed like that in the dark. Yada yada, blah blah blah. Then the swan died somehow. How was the swan stabbed? How could Miss Brett have been stabbed in the back and in a beach hut that was empty but for herself and Ray? Somewhere amid all this information we gathered so far, there must be an answer to that question. I take it then that the defense has nothing further to add. So the gallant yokel student's luck finally runs out. I can't say I'm surprised. In that case, I assume I'm ready to deliver my final verdict on this matter. This is a crucial turning point now. If I can't establish what really happened, it's over. Where was the real culprit hiding? And how did he or she stab the victim? I don't know. Well, Ray, I tried. No. I know how. I've been saying it for the past 2 hours. Or 1 week, if you believe it. Your Excellency, I respectfully ask you to postpone your adjudication for the time being. Oh, to what end, counsel? The defense would like to present the court with an alternative theory. An alternative theory that can explain who the victim was actually trying to implicate with her dying gesture.
Objection!
An alternative theory? Ha! None exists!
Objection!
There was someone else present at the scene who could have committed the crime. What? And the victim, Miss Brett, tried to reveal who it was to those around her at the time by mustering all her remaining strength and pointing a trembling finger in the killer's direction. This is fiction! Fantasy! I'm sad this case wasn't called Brett's Swan Song. You know what? Pike's Pendragon? That's a great name. Very well, as you seem so sure of yourself, counsel, I'm prepared to hear your alternative theory. So, young RYUTARO Naruhodo. Yes, Your Excellency. You will present your latest theory to the court by means of this plan. At the moment the victim was stabbed, where exactly are you proposing the culprit was concealed? He was right behind here. Maybe behind here. Or maybe actually in here. Hiding in the drawer. Oh, but really he was there.
Take that!
Naruhodo-san would never give up, and I'm a Naruhodo now. The true culprit who fatally stabbed Miss Brett was concealed in this location here. Are you mad, counsel? You're suggesting the culprit was outside the hut. What? Order, order, order.
But student lawyer Harusan Esquire, that makes no sense at all.
You've just pointed out the exact spot where I was hiding to get my scoop snap. But I didn't see any suspicious individuals loitering about, I can swear to that.
Obviously, if the culprit had been outside the hut, there's no way that he or she could have stabbed the victim who was inside the hut.
Actually, Prosecutor Ouchie, there is a way.
Oh,
And, in point of fact, the defense can prove evidence strongly suggesting that is precisely the way Miss Brett was killed.
you're bluffing. You're bluffing, you yokel.
The defense's assertion clearly is too fantastical for the court to comprehend. You will need to give us more guidance, counsel. What piece of evidence corroborates your theory that the victim was stabbed from outside the hut? I mean, it has to be this photo, right? This one.
Take that!
Well, I've presented it now. I haven't the first idea why I chose this piece of evidence. Counsel, you're suggesting that this piece of evidence bears out your theory as to how the victim was stabbed. It's something of a windfall, Your Excellency.
I think the word you're looking for, counsel, was downfall.
What? If your theory is correct and the knife was thrust into Miss Brett's back from outside the hut, there should be a visible trace somewhere. A trace? Yes, on the hut itself. On with that idea, I must look through the court's
I just did.
Okay, then it must be the other crime scene photo. Fine, this one.
Take that!
The original photographic print of the crime scene? Yes, it's clearly visible in this print. The trace of the fatal thrust that was delivered from outside the beach hut.
Attention!
Do you take us for fools? There's no chance of any such thing.
I'm not sure that everyone present would agree. Someone, at least, appears to have noticed what it is that I'm referring to. Counsel, once again I must call on you to be explicit for the court. Where on this photograph is the trace of the stabbing, which you claim took place from outside the hut? I guess here.
Take that!
Look closely just here. In the screen in the back of the hut, you can see the effects of a blade having been forced through the reeds.
No, I can't. I can't see any such thing.
It's true that the hut in question has 4 walls that you expect. However, by parting the reeds, a knife blade could easily penetrate them. This is extraordinary. Yes. The true culprit actually stabbed the victim from outside the beach hut.
Oh!
And of everyone present at the scene, there is only one person who could have done it. Only one person who was directly outside the hut when Miss Brett was killed.
Right in my memo, son. It only could have been you.
Ooh, the pursuit theme's back. Start dancing. Also, GMOS DBA, thank you for your 12-month resub. Congrats for a whole year. You know what? I'm taking a picture of this one too. If only because he makes a funny sound.
No!
Attention!
This preposterous idea leaves me almost speechless. Just look at the photograph again. The victim lies almost the victim lies almost exactly in the center of the beach hut, does she not? Are we to assume, as part of this farcical scenario, that the assailant was a knife thrower?
She was sitting on the stool.
Objection!
No, of course not.
We're not?
If you recall the testimony of the defendant about the events just before the victim's death. Yeah, she was sitting on a stool like we've been trying to say this whole time, you idiot.
A stool?
Have another look at the photograph. The slit in the read screen would align perfectly with the back of a person who was sitting on the stool.
My word. So, in fact, the victim was...
killed while sitting on that stool by a stab wound to her back delivered through the read screen. Sorry, I had to sneeze.
Ah!
Having been attacked, Miss Brett rose to her feet instinctively. But then, unable to speak, she collapsed on the floor in the middle of the hut. Before the defendant, Membami-san's appalled eyes. And that, Your Excellency, is the truth of what happened on the beach that day. By your silence, Memimeno-san, I take it that you don't deny the charge?
This is... absurd!
That will do. It would appear that we have a tacit admission of guilt from the witness. Accordingly, this court has successfully established the truth of this matter, which means that the defendant, Membami-san, is innocent of the crime. That's too easy. Oh, thank goodness! I finally made him cave. I must say, I've never been more proud.
No, this can't be! The Ouchie clan can't... Look at my growth! My growth of hope!
Okay, that's gonna be the thumbnail. Thank you, Ouchie. Perfect.
It was all an apparition! It wasn't all an apparition! I can't accept this! I won't!
I see no reason for the continuance of this trial. I will therefore move to conclude proceedings by Oh! Ha ha ha! Well, this is... No, I'm going into Shelms now. Well, this is all very convenient. This is how the highest court in our mighty empire delivers justice, is it? Suppressing well-meaning citizens' freedom to speak and branding them as criminals? But we've established that the victim was stabbed from outside the hut through the read screen walls. And no one but you was in place at the time to have his hand on the hilt of the blade. It's a perfectly logical deduction. So, your argument hinges on the location of whoever stabbed the Englishwoman, does it? Well, it seems a little irrelevant now. Irrelevant? Where she was stabbed, how she was stabbed. It doesn't matter. I mean, whether she was stabbed at all makes no difference if you think about it. After all, this trial has already shown the whole thing hinges on something else. Like Soseki-san turning back like he knows the camera's moving back there. What are you talking about? Brace yourself, little man. I'm talking about the fact that everything's changed. Because of you, because of the dirt you dug up. What? Enough obscurity. Explain yourself, witness. What's to explain? I'm talking about the poison, of course. The poison? Let's ask the professor for a comment on the situation, shall we? I understand that a deadly poison you were developing was stolen from your laboratory, correct? It's been shown that the poison was administered to the victim, Miss Brett. Is that right? That is correct. The unusual contraction of the victim's pupils are a sure sign that this particular poison was used. I see. So, presumably that means that the victim already had the poison in her body before she was stabbed? Ah! Given that her pupils were clearly constricted, it seems highly likely, yes. If she had been dead already, the poison could not have circulated in her blood. Oh, quick recovery there, Ouchie.
Ah, how refreshing to hear the argument of a metropolitan mind. Precisely! It matters not a jot who stabbed the woman in whose back and with whose blade. Because, quite simply, the Englishwoman's life was taken not by the knife, but by the poison!
There was still an intervening cause. You can't just completely wash your hands of murder just because someone else finally completed the deed. Yeah, I know, it's very much a case of the guy I stabbed was then shot in the head. Who's guilty of murder?
Objection!
But that can be explained by the poison being already on the blade, as I already...
Objection!
Forgotten already, have we, yokel? During these very proceedings, the laboratory of the professor at your side assisted in proving that the blade of the weapon used to attack the victim had no trace of poison on it whatsoever.
So then we try the pin. So let me get this down. The facts, as skillfully established by the defense in this trial, turn out to be a headline-making red herring. Is that about right?
Well...
Ta!
Order, order, order. But, where does this leave us? How, in that case, did the poison enter the victim's body? There is an undeniable and obvious answer to that. The lady almost likely imbibed it.
You mean she drank it?
Have another look at the photograph here. As you can see, a bottle of carbonated water in a glass had been knocked to the sandy floor of the beach hut. The poison could have been slipped into either.
So somebody made Miss Brett drink it.
Well, what do you know? Look at those dashing eyes! This will make for a great front-page shot! Hey, why the bewitching stare? After all, I'm the last person you should be looking at. It should make no sense at all that it would make no sense at all that I poisoned the woman, would it? I mean, I have already that's already been established already. Oh my god, words.
Established? What are you talking about?
Don't tell me you've forgotten. That's a little hard to believe, given that the person who's established it was you!
Me? What on earth does he mean?
Oh, let me catch those wide eyes. That's the prime press follower this is. Yeah, for all the people to not check their drink for poison, it's the woman who is poisoning people. It would seem that this trial is not yet destined to end after all. End yet. I hereby call upon the witness to give further testimony. That's great, that is! Let me get a shot of that magnificent beard, Your Excellency! Make sure you get my left side. You claim it to be impossible that you were the one responsible for administering the poison to the victim. You will explain to the court in your testimony the basis upon which you make such a claim. I'm a journo and a man! I've never tried to run nor hide from anything in my life. And I'm not about to start now, because that's Memimemoism! For a brief moment, I thought I illuminated the truth, but it slipped right back into obscurity again.
Just where is this trial going to take us?
To be continued. Oh, immediately. Complete innocence. Okay. I can't put this into the thumbnail, but I want to save it for later. You're trying to shoot the woman I've rightfully stabbed. Sparkamus, I don't know if I noticed your resub, but thank you for the 40-month resub. I just saw that come across the ticker. Oh yes, I stabbed the Englishwoman, but it's that very fact that proves I'm innocent. Innocent. Because why would I bother to stab the woman if I'd already poisoned her? When I heard the student girl and that pompous English murderer arguing, it got my goat. If the courts weren't going to punish Brett for what she did, someone else would have to see justice done. Are you fucking kidding me, dude? So you admit it then, that everything happened as I described. That you are the one who stabbed Miss Brett in the back through the read screen. You can't blame this miserable country. You can blame this miserable country of ours. A country that bows to the pressure of foreign powers lets murderers walk free. What kind of future can a country like that have? That's why I did it. I did what our pathetic leaders didn't have the guts to do. Slap bang in the middle of the charming lady's back, I plunged the blade of sweet justice right in there. As someone who spends his life seeing that the truth is told, I feel really, really awful about giving false information about my testimony before. But as it turns out, there was somebody else who had it in for the victim who got to her before me. Okay, here's the problem though. The autopsy said dead by stab wound. So you're the one that ended up killing her. That's right, you guessed it! That pretty little student girl! Now there's a woman after my own heart! Sorry, I'm actually looking something up right now, so enjoy the music for a sec. I actually wanted to check to see what the current understanding of superseding cause is in a murder case. Because while I am an attorney, I'm not a criminal attorney, and this is a bit of a finer point of criminal law. Though it also exists in civil law as well. My current understanding of it is, in my cursory glance of the internet, is if two people tried to kill a single person and both attempts independently would have been successful, but just one beat the other to the point, they're both guilty of murder, assuming you can establish all the necessary facts. It's only if there's enough distance and time between one person's act and the person's death that you could say superseding cause prevents you from prosecuting a person of the crime. But that's years of distance, not one person poisons a person and the other person comes in and stabs them. The problem is, reporter guy's acting like, you can't get anything on me, she was poisoned, despite the fact that by his own testimony, he stabbed her and then she died. Unless the autopsy report is completely faking us out here. You're implicating Ray again. She's the one who gave the poison to the Englishwoman and ended her pitiful existence. Okay, well that's... Cause of death, a single deep stab wound from behind. And suddenly, snap! This journo here is off the hook. No, you're not! The argument is sound, certainly. If the witness had administered the poison himself, you need only have waited for it to take effect. Subsequently, stabbing the victim in the back would have been entirely nonsensical. And therefore, this reporter had nothing to do with the poisoning. Yes, it's all quite logical. Yeah, no, the eye bit. We got that. We got that last week. That was how we found out that she had been poisoned. And that's why this story is having any legs to stand on. Aside from the one.
That's right, it is logical and true. I'm glad you've all seen the light. Justice at last! This is unbelievable. And after I made so much progress in proving his guilt, is he going to get away with it now?
He's not! He still killed her! I'm glad I watched The Princess Bride.
Think of Kazuma-sama, Naruhodo-san. They never stop looking for a way forward until the judge's final gavel.
Oh, there it goes.
Very well then, counsel. Proceed with what I assume to be your final cross-examination in this trial. Yes, Your Excellency.
Exactly. Inconceivable.
Alright. I don't even know what our statement's here. I've been
I'd love to hear him spin himself out more here.
So, you do admit that you had murderous intentions towards Miss Brett, then? Ha! The woman's very existence offended my sense of justice! Your sense of... he's claiming some sort of righteous indignation? She was pure evil, a cold-blooded killer who committed murder right here on Empire soil! But did our good-for-nothing government do anything? Not a chance! So I had to step in. Fly the flag of justice, put things right for the people. Yes, it was my civic duty. That's what drove me to do it. So in summary, murderous intentions then. Whatever you want to call it, the point is this. That Englishwoman was a blight. So I had to do what was right for society. Yet a real wrong was done by the student girl in the dock, a crime for which she must pay. Obviously, because the poisoning was nothing to do with me at all.
Which, methinks the reporter doth protest too much.
Hold it!
So you still maintain that you didn't give the poison to the victim? Obviously! That'd be like putting a belt on your trousers when you're already wearing braces like these! I mean, that's just safety. The accused administered the poison, following which the witness stabbed the victim.
Okay, screen cap that.
An unforgivable act, certainly, but not one of murder.
Boo. You. Fuck you.
The crime rests on the accused's shoulders. That is how the law works, you see, yokel.
No! That's not how this works. That's not how any of this works. I'm not even gonna complete Ouchie's statement there. I'm moving on.
2 consecutive attempts on her life in the space of minutes. Quite a day for the victim. Do something that evil and you've got it coming. That's how the law works. The law of reckoning. That's not the kind of law this court upholds. You will reiterate why you were compelled to stab the victim then, witness.
What are the odds that this wasn't even the case in the 1900s? Oh, I sincerely doubt it. I think it offends any, like, a basic sense of justice that just because someone beat you to the punch that you're freed of your attempted murder. When 2 mothers wanted one baby, King Solomon wanted to split the baby in half. I think the concept can go as far as when 2 people stab the same person, they're both guilty of murder.
Hold it!
What exactly were they arguing about? About what happened in that restaurant 9 months ago, that's what. That student girl was laying into the Englishwoman for killing her beloved mentor, Dr. Wilson.
Yes, John H. Wilson.
Daddy!
A professor of medicine, invited here from England by Professor Mikatoba, no less.
Right, but the Englishwoman just jeered. Her case was to be heard by the British Consular Court in Shanghai. However, there is little doubt that she would simply have been acquitted and sent back to her homeland a free woman.
It was eating that student girl up inside. You could see it. I really felt for her. Does anyone know what the kanji on Ouchie's fan says? I feel like it's something stupid, but I don't understand it.
I can't! I can't stand here and listen to this tripe!
Tripe.
Ray! Young girl, you stand accused here. You can't just blurt out whatever you feel like it.
No, you can't! Sorry, but I'm in the middle of some very important testimony here. Just keep quiet and listen.
But this awful man is making this all up! Susato, please, you have to make them listen!
Return to the dock at once, Membami-san. We are in the middle of a cross-examination.
Hold it!
Your Excellency, please, I implore you. That journalist is clearly not a trustworthy witness. Exactly! He's a filthy, rotten, black-hearted, bigoted, dirty, great peeping Tom!
Whoa, take it easy there.
Please, I really think the court should hear what the defendant has to say.
Your Excellency, I see no need whatsoever to entertain the accused's remarks.
I will grant the request of the defense.
But Your Excellency!
This is likely to be the final cross-examination of these proceedings. As such, I believe it would be ill-advised to stifle the defendant's obvious concerns. So, whilst recognizing that this contravenes regular protocol, I hereby call upon the defendant to speak.
Oh! Thank you so much, Your Excellency!
Okay, so now we have two more statements.
Hold it!
Of course, now this is no longer... This seems like we're adding direct testimony on top of cross-examination. Direct examination. Oh boy, my brain's starting to die. The stolen poison that killed the victim, you mean?
I suspected her of being the one to steal it. I mean, just think about how she killed Dr. Wilson.
That's true. Additionally, Miss Brett certainly had knowledge of the new poison. But surely it would be no easy task to steal a highly secret toxin being developed for the government? Indeed. All visitors to the laboratory are thoroughly searched when they leave. Even if a thief managed to avoid being seen by myself or a colleague, getting the poison out would be very difficult.
That's true! I pestered Professor Mikatoba until he agreed to show me the poison when I visited his laboratory. But as I left, I was searched from top to tail.
Miss Brett rather bluntly revealed the existence of the toxin we'd been developing, you see. And since Oseki-san expressed such an interest in it, I felt unable to refuse. Obviously, I gave nothing away other than the fact that it was an extremely potent substance.
I'm very ashamed of myself. It's just that I had a very single terrible experience with a deadly poison. But I want to look I want to look my own enemy in the eye. Surely you can understand that. To find out if my suspicions were true, I confronted Miss Brett about the poison. I told her that if there were to be an incident involving it somehow, it wouldn't just be the university. The military would be dragged into it. The whole government even. It would be a complete disaster.
And how did Miss Brett respond to your concerns?
She just curled those beautiful lips of hers and said she didn't know the first thing about it. In English, actually.
Oh yes, Mimimono-san. One small question if you don't mind. I do mind! Can't you see that I'm busy? Clearly you were outside the beach hut listening in whilst the defendant and Miss Brett were conversing. Presumably then, it was you who wrote this article about what you heard? Exclusive. Deadly poison stolen from Yume Medical Research Laboratory. The story was published in the morning's edition of Shoyu News. The details are too accurate for it to have been written by anyone else. Sorry, don't know what you're talking about.
Yes, look at this! The entire article! It's almost what I said to Miss Brett, word for word.
Duh! Well, Momo-san. Momo-san. As a journo and as a citizen of a free country, I don't have to reveal my sources. That's the founding principle of Many-Momoism. Many-Memoism. Father's clearly right about this. That reporter did write that article, and he based it on what he overheard from outside the hut.
So that's what this is all about. You're trying to cover up the fact that you were listening in. That's why you came up with that stinking story about me arguing with her.
Shut up! My stories never stink! Look, whatever you say, little girl, it doesn't alter the facts. Your Excellency, there's something I want to say, and I wanted to go on record. Very well, you may amend your formal testimony. Ha, ha, ha. The point is, if you poison someone, there'd be no reason to go stab him in the person as well.
Hold it!
Perhaps you doubted the efficacy of the poison, and sought to make sure the victim would die. That's horse dung. What? That would be like pouring pepper on your Chinese ramen before you even tasted it. Completely reckless. Although, it might surprise you to learn that I am a bit of an impetuous pepper pourer as it happens. Once the victim had taken the poison, she would have been only minutes away from death. And yet, this man then proceeded to stab her in the back as well. There must have been a good reason for that. It was the reporter who gave the poison to Miss Brett, and clearly, he must have done it prior to Ray entering the hut. Yes, that's undeniable. Between him leaving in the hut and being stabbed, there was one very crucial change in the situation. Sorry? What change? The reporter overheard the conversation between Ray and the Englishwoman. Ah, yes, that's it! That's when Momo-san first found out the exact nature of the poison he'd used. That would be the key here. If the victim had unwittingly taken the poison already, the reporter would have had no reason to stab her. On the face of it, that logic sounds entirely reasonable. But there's no question that this man was responsible for Miss Brett's murder. If we could think of a plausible explanation as to why he might have stabbed her even after the poisoning, I feel sure that everything would drop into place. That's what we should be looking for. Yes, I agree. In order to do that, I must try to glean more information. And then you bounce out. So clearly the pen came in before Ray did. So you're trying to use her as a mule. No. Well, what happens if I do this?
Objection!
Okay, that does nothing. I already pressed all the statements, didn't I? I pressed that one, and that one, and that's when I pressed you in order to get her to say that. I pressed all this, like, what else can I do here? I clearly need to bring in the pen. Oh. Because they would know she was poisoned if you didn't kill her with the knife. So maybe I present this?
Objection!
There we go. Well, I can think of one reason. What? But before I explain, I'd like you to confirm something for the court. Did you glean all the information for this newspaper article from what you overheard outside the hut?
Of course he did! There can be no question of that! After all, when we were all in the laboratory together, all we were told is there was a terrible toxin!
And there is one more important fact to consider. According to the witness, Membami-san's verbal attack against the victim began as soon as she entered the hut. In other words, it would have been impossible for her to have slipped the poison in Miss Brett's drink.
Objection!
Where are you going with this, counsel?
Memo-san made it quite clear that he observed every single thing that happened in the beach hut. If the defendant had somehow found an opportunity, this man would have seen it. Ugh! Which means that Miss Brett couldn't have imbibed the poison whilst the defendant was present. In fact, it must have been administered to her before Membami-san entered the hut. Yes, very articulately put.
When I walked into the hut, I immediately started to press Miss Brett about the poison.
At which point, Memo-san overheard some worrying information.
Worrying information? What worrying information?
The information which he subsequently included in his newspaper article, namely, that the poison was being developed in a strict secrecy, and that it couldn't be readily obtained. Absolutely. In fact, that's quite an understatement. The only possible place it could come from is my lab. And furthermore, anyone afflicted by the poison would exhibit telltale signs in death. The extreme constriction of the pupils. Yes, it's quite stark when you see it. There are other poisons that show similar symptoms, but not among new substances that are undetectable. In other words, it would be clear that the victim's life had been ended by the use of this particular poison, which would reduce the number of suspects to only a handful of people. Oh! Everyone in my laboratory, I know I've been flipping between laboratory and laboratory, it's just been a mood, is aware of the unique properties of the toxin we've been developing. None of them would be foolish enough to attempt to use it for some nefarious deed, Membami-san being no exception. Therefore, we can conclude that whoever administered this unique poison to the victim was a layperson, unaware of its telltale properties.
In
other words, someone like you! Right in Memo!
Gah!
It was you who stole the poison from the laboratory that day. It was you who administered it to the unwitting victim. But you quickly realized that it was a terrible mistake.
Because the poison was such an unusual symptom, it was so traceable. I'm getting shrill.
As you listened in from the far side of the beach hut's thin walls, you learnt of these facts. But you'd already given the victim the poison at that point. It was too late. So you hatched your plan to disguise your mistake. The plan that involved stabbing the victim in the back through the reed screen.
Objection!
But what good would that possibly do?
Isn't it obvious, counsel? The plan was to kill Miss Brett before the poison could take effect. Once in the blood, the poison causes the onset of pupil constriction. But he had hoped to precipitate the victim's death before that happened, hadn't he? Which exactly is the problem here. He still would have been guilty of the murder. Exactly. Because without any revealing signs of the new secret poison's use, no one would ever have suspected. This is extraordinary. Yes, the effects of the poison meant it would be too easily identified, so the killer had to mask its use. which he attempted to do by plunging a knife into the middle of the victim's back. Young. Order. The argument presented is sound. The court is satisfied that it warrants consideration. Does the prosecution have a counter-argument which is to put forward?
Well, there are a number of, yes. I counter completely.
Objection!
The prosecution's evasive response clearly shows that in much the same way as he nurtures the remnants of his top knot, he is clinging to false hope.
Lost hope!
Duh! You pathetic, useless, fallen samurai!
Fallen? Who are you calling fallen? My burgeoning ghost.
I don't need a counter-argument! What? What are you talking about? It should be blatantly obvious. I stole the poison, you say. Gave it to the victim, you say. Stabbed her, you say. Lots of fine theories.
But I don't need a counter-argument because you don't have an argument yourself. Where's your evidence?
Yes, you make it all sound so plausible, don't you? Without any evidence, it means nothing. Whereas I base my news on facts. Facts? What do you mean? Explain yourself. I mean, what the professor said earlier in this trial. It's all there, in my many memos. Every word, every slip of the tongue, all noted. That's what the Show You News is famous for. It's the power of the printed word. Yes, how did it get out? And this is where the fountain pen comes in. How's that then? Blown the story wide open? See, I, write in many memo, a mere reporter from the Show You News, couldn't possibly have stolen that poison from the professor's laboratory. But there can't be any question of it. He must have stolen the poison that day. He stole it and used it to kill. And if that's the case, as you've identified, the poison itself is the definitive evidence we need. Because whoever stole it from the laboratory that day is the true culprit here. What's your point, you annoyingly handsome country bumpkin? My point is this. There's one way that you, Many Memo-san, could have stolen the poison that day. I have heard enough verbal conjecture now, thank you. But the court must be shown as evidence. What proof do you have that this witness stole the poison on that day in question? And here's where the pen comes in.
Take that!
The proof, Your Excellency, is this fountain pen. Duh! A fountain pen? How can that possibly be relevant? These magical pens somehow seem to have enough ink to write many thousands of kanji characters. I believe they arrived in our country for the first time some 15 years ago now. Bah, I swear by these weasel hair calligraphy brush, and I swear by a weasel hair calligraphy brush and nothing else. These newfangled pens are merely a fad.
Well, as a forward-thinking man of words, obviously I love my fountain pen. Some suck-up, succulent, sunk shink that runs work as a wash in words in a blink of an eye.
That's right. Fountain pens have a small reservoir in the barrel, into which ink is sucked up through the nib of the pen in order to write with later. What does all this talking of sucking up ink have? Ah! And just as it's possible to suck up ink into a reservoir, it's also possible to eject it through the nib again, of course. My word, can this really be? Well, Meno-san? When you saw the deadly poison before your eyes in the laboratory that day, you used your fountain pen, your very lifeblood, to steal some of it, didn't you? by siphoning the poison up through the nib and into the pen's reservoir. I'm just going to enjoy the music for a sec. Hold on. Alright, let's close the noose. Gah!
Objection!
More absurdity! That never happened! True, we've heard that there were procedures in place to prevent thefts like this from the laboratory. But would anyone have thought to look inside a fountain pen of all places? No, I'm a little ashamed to say that for fear of offending our guests, such a detailed search would not have been conducted. Well, this is quite startling, I must say. I remind the court that this pen was found in the clutches of the victim when she died. In other words, it was dropped at the scene by Memimeno-san. So the crucial question is, when exactly was the pen dropped? Are you suggesting? The natural conclusion is that in your haste to act while the victim was distracted for a moment, you dropped the pen as after you emptied the poison from it into her glass.
Objection!
There could be any number of alternative explanations. For example, the witness could have been using his pen to write down details of his conversation with the victim. And when shocked by one of her outrageous answers, the pen fell from his quivering hand.
Objection!
Let's close the news. Not what you want to hear from a defense lawyer. Well, when we'll have to find someone guilty to completely exculpate our client. Yeah, no. It's only in the Ace Attorney games. No, that can't be. If it was, how do you explain why the pen was devoid of ink? What? As you can see for yourself if you examine the evidence, there would appear to be no ink present in the reservoir. What newspaper reporter goes to interview someone with nothing in his pen? No, the pen was dropped after the poison that filled its reservoir had been emptied into the victim's glass. Witness, what do you have to say for your defense? Wow! This is how our modern justice system works, is it? So what if the ink in my pen runs dry? So what if my pencil snaps? I can always claw my way back into the game. I have plenty in reserve. Ja! You claim I sucked the poison up into my pen? That's wild speculation, nothing more. If you thought you could bring down a fine, upstanding citizen with a trick like that, think again. It looks as though it's going to take one final decisive blow to finish this matter. They use the word final way too many times. As I see it, the situation is now very simple. It rests upon whether or not this witness did indeed steal the poison on the day in question, and therefore, it all depends upon whether or not the defense can prove that he did with evidence. Ha! No such evidence could possibly exist!
Objection!
Memimeno-san, this is how our modern justice system works. What? In the courtroom, evidence is everything. Something you would do well to remember. Because we're well past the point of speculation at this stage, I assure you. Duh! Very well then. I'll call upon the defense to present the aforementioned evidence. This is it then. This will be the final piece in the puzzle. The defense can prove by means of this item that it was the witness's pen that was used to seal the poison.
Take that!
Counsel, what is that bottle? It's something I'm just now submitting into evidence, sir. This bottle contains a unique chemical reagent that can identify the poison in question. Yes, that poison is an entirely new synthesis of alkaloids developed by my colleagues and I. Developed by I don't think that's the right grammar. It would be impossible to detect traces of it by any other method. Or, from another perspective, simply with this chemical reagent, anyone at all could check for traces of the poison. A reagent? What? One drop of the contents of this bottle on the tip of your fountain pen, Merimeno-san, is all it will take to solve this case beyond all reasonable doubt. Because suddenly that's my burden of proof. No, you can't. I won't. Your crimes are bad enough, but at least know when to admit defeat. Your Excellency, the defense requests permission to carry out the test on the fountain pen at once. Take cover! This isn't my fault! The Empire of Drominicus, trying to hide my whole hand as a civilized nation, I took up arms and formed the mighty pen. I fought tirelessly, all in the name of justice and righteousness. Yes, many. Susato, with me! I'm there! Hiya! Nice conclusion. Nice conclusion, game. You stretched it out too much, but you made it worth it. Did I do it right? That was a Susato takedown, wasn't it? Not quite. That was a RYUTARO takedown. The instant the first drop of the reagent touched the nib of the fountain pen, it was clear to everyone present that we just ruined a good fountain pen. Now, how do I do defeated 1920s reporter sound? When I saw it there in the lab, the poison, the devil got hold of me and I decided to do it on a whim. I excused myself and emptied all the ink down the sink in the bathroom, washing the reservoir out carefully. And then you waited for an opportunity to suck up some of the poison, didn't you? Into your fountain pen. You didn't have the bottle corked or something? Yes, that's right. Answer me one thing, Merimeno-san. Why did you steal it? For what purpose? Isn't it obvious? To find out what it was made of and expose it in an article. I mean, it was a secret project after all. Too juicy for a journal like me to pass up. Then why did the Englishwoman end up dead? I went to that hut intending to quiz her on her situation, that's all, as a reporter. A known killer, enjoying full freedom, evading justice by leaving the country. I told her what I thought about it. And she just laughed at my face! Oh, what's this? A Far Eastern caveman purporting to practice journalism? Really, you must learn the difference between reporting and listening at doorways, you ignorant plebeian. What? What did you call me? This country, with its pretensions to a justice system, to a free press, it's really depressing. You see our superior ways in the West, yet you lack the mental capacity to emulate them. Get out of here, you oaf. Get out and crawl back into the cave you came from. That's when I remembered about the deadly poison I happened to have in my pen at the time. What a terrible tale. So really she had it coming. Not guilty. Not guilty's for everyone. In my head, I knew I should just get out of there as quickly as possible, but I couldn't. I couldn't let her get away with what she'd done, when she clearly had no remorse at all. I suppose it was my journo's spirit getting all fired up. Sad journo. Oh yeah, super guilty of killing the swan. The swan is why you're going to jail. Yeah, hold on. Check the swan's eyes. Did it just drink the poison and that's how it died? I'd like to ask you something. Yeah? You often talk about justice. But surely as a journalist, you could have used other means to deliver the justice you sought. There's no justice in the press. Sorry? After that trial 9 months ago, I kept digging and digging and find out what happened at that courtroom. And finally, I discovered the truth. It was a cover-up! That's what it was! A cover-up? What do you mean? I would remind you of your position, witness. Be careful of what you say. Oh, come on! Doesn't it strike you as strange? We're suddenly not allowed to convict a foreign national. Consular jurisdiction should never have come into it. And yet that puffed-up Englishwoman was going to sail away into the sunset as a free woman. The only possible explanation is that behind the scenes, some deal had gone down between Britain and Japan. What sort of deal? I'd done my research, dug up all the dirt. It was all ready to be published. But you know what happened? The editor just tore the article up! He came under pressure from the government, you mean? If our government is going to let criminals walk free, if they're going to crush the free press, then what choice do I have but to see what justice has done myself? Let's not forget, Memo-san, that you committed murder yourself and you tried to lay the blame out the defendant's door. I'm sorry, but you're no better than Jezebel Brett. Giselle Brett, that Jezebel. What? The truth is, you have no right to talk about justice at all. This is Ace Attorney for crying out loud. I suppose. It would appear that we have reached the conclusion in this trial at last. Hey, don't say that now. This was only about 5 hours. If we were to go all the way back to the last case in the last game, fuck me! That would be a deserved statement. Counsel for the defense, Ryutaro Naruhodo. It's Susato, by the way. Oh, shit! Oh! Ah, yes. Sorry, Your Excellency. Just musing in a manly way there. Here. Alpha Shin. I was so mad that she poisoned someone and blamed it on someone else that I poisoned her and blamed it on someone else. It's almost unbelievable that this is your first experience of the Supreme Court. It was an excellent performance. In truth, it very much reminded me of your cousin's exploits. Oh, Ryunosuke, you mean? The way you handled the trial 9 months ago, and the way you handled this one, it gives me hope that we are generally entering a new era of justice in this land. Well, I'm leaving, so bye! Oh, Vanwood VA, thank you for the raid. Welcome to the end of the first case of the second Great Ace Attorney game. That's very flattering, Your Excellency. Hearing the defense you put forward today made me feel most keenly that the future of our justice system will be forged by you and your contemporaries. Thank you. So, prosecutor, he's not a professor. So, Prosecutor Ouchie, do you have any final thoughts? What the hell? Are you about to kill yourself? Oh no. Suddenly a mature, not safe for work. Mature game, everybody. Look away. Prosecutor Ouchie?
I, Takatsuchi of the Ouchie clan, have been bested by a callow youth not once now, but twice. If there is any shred of my former self left, it has withered and died here today.
Gosh, your journey to culture enlightenment sure took a while, didn't it?
Silence! Rather than living on in shame, I will end it all now with this blade. For that is the true path to Ouchieism!
Ouchieism? One hopes that's the only way in which he'll be modeling himself after the witness.
Isn't anyone gonna stop me?
No, good luck with that.
Sprig of my top knot. The time is right for farewell. Hope is lost forever. Takatsuchi.
Was that even 575? Oh, and it's Kazuma's theme. People in the gallery are just sitting there. Now, in regard to the defendant, Rei Membami-san.
Yes, Your Excellency?
I have reached my final verdict. I hereby find you...
Not guilty.
Launch the fireworks! Oh, no, we haven't gotten that from the west yet. Alright, here are some cherry blossoms. It's not even April. These aren't in bloom. It's August. Court is adjourned. You don't have to go home, but you can't stay here. It's over. My heart is still pounding in my chest, though. It's all I can do just to stay standing. Lawyers have such great responsibility. Such a great burden to bear. Okay, screen capping that. I need that forever. I need that as evidence for later. Don't they, Naruhodo-san?
Susato! Susato! Thank you so much. You were so dashing in there.
Rei and Father.
Honestly, I'm so touched by everything you've... Oh no, I think I'm going to cry.
It wasn't easy, but together we made it. I was on the verge of tears at the end, too.
The only reason I'm still here is because of you.
Oh no, I can't take all the credit. It took courage to tell the truth in there. You did wonderfully, Rei. So I would have to say that the congratulations belong to you.
Susato, don't be so standoffish.
Sorry?
We're friends, equals, and the trial's over, so no more of the formal super humility nonsense. It's time to celebrate with swagger. Throw caution to the wind.
Caution to the... what?
I'm the great defense lawyer, RYUTARO Naruhodo, and I'm gonna take you out to a milk bar tomorrow. Or something.
Right, I see. I'll, think about it, Rei.
At any rate, we really knocked the wind out of that horrid man, and it felt so good.
Yes, it was satisfying.
It really was. Isn't there anyone else we could throw together?
I hope you're not looking at me, Ray.
Oh my goodness, no, of course not. Of course not.
Ah, there it is at last. Ray's lovely smile. Not enough teeth. You fought for your friend to the very last. As your father, I'm extremely proud of you, defense attorney RYUTARO Naruhodo. Thank you, but I couldn't have done it without your help. Anyway, it's time to bid farewell to RYUTARO, I think. I shall miss him in a way, but it's back to Susato Mikitoba now.
So I'll never see him again then. What a terrible shame.
I like it when you wear the outfit.
What? Oh, it's them.
What is happening?
Ah, Suseki-san and Inspector Hosonaga. I do hope you've been keeping well. Is that really you? Yes, I had to change my appearance for, well, obvious reasons, I hope. But it's me, Susato Mikitoba.
I don't.
So dashing.
So dashing, so divine. No. Doubly dashing, yes, and devilishly divine. Just look at you. I had no idea, Miss Susato Esquires, that you were locum student Naruhodo-san's Esquire's cousin. Astonishingly astounding ace attorney.
Take a shot, he said the name. Poor Soseki-san, so confused. I still remember the first time I ever met him. He was in a prison cell in London. What an extraordinary conundrum that it was that the unwitting student from Japan found himself embroiled in. But after Naruhodo-san's skillful defense at the Old Bailey, Soseki-san was free to return to Japan. Now he seems to have earned himself great fame as an author. I'm stunned. That's truly an impressive disguise. Even I had no idea, and I'm a chief inspector at the police bureau. Who came up with the Mr. Turtle, no less? I'm not sure you should be ending to that, Inspector. Amazing. You're a woman of many faces, I see. Just two, really. And this is a once-in-a-lifetime event, I hope. Oh, I'm not a patch on you, though, Inspector. Well, I am a professional, of course. I do worry about Inspector Hosonaga sometimes. I really do. Clearly he has tuberculosis, and there's nothing anyone wants to do about it. Walking around as Typhoid Mary. 9 months ago, when he appeared here at the Supreme Court to testify, he was undercover, disguised as the head waiter at a restaurant. Even though he used his damn business card as evidence. And then on a steamship to Great Britain, of course, disguised as a sailor to keep us safe on the journey. And he failed at that. Though that didn't help you, did it, Kazuma-sama? From my perspective, I have to admit that I have mixed feelings about all this. I mean, not that the truth has been lost forever.
What do you mean?
I'm talking about the murder that the Englishwoman committed at the end of last year.
Oh yes, it was an English doctor that she killed, as I understand it.
Dr. John H. Wilson, yes, the man I invited to Japan personally. The mystery is, why did she kill him? Now if the culprit herself is dead, we'll probably never know the answer. On the voyage to Great Britain, we had a most unexpected encounter. With Mr. Herlock Sholmes, the great detective, I mean. Yes, I remember Mr. Sholmes as well, of course.
Ah, my arch nemesis, how lightly you utter his name!
Well, according to the stories published about him in The Adventures of Herlock Sholmes, the detective once had a partner who helped him solve crimes, a best friend. And that man was an exceptional doctor of medicine, by the name of John H. Wilson.
What? Dr. Wilson?
I just can't believe that it is a coincidence. I think that the English doctor of medicine killed here in Japan 9 months ago must have been the friend and partner of Mr. Sholmes. And if that's really true, then the poor girl will never see her beloved father again.
Hi, Susie, I'm in the flashback.
As you know, I traveled to Great Britain once myself to study. It was around the time you were born. Yes, grandmother told me about it. On returning to Japan, I took up my professorship at the Imperial Yume University. But I also served another role, as an advisor to the government on diplomatic affairs. Yes, I was aware of that as well. In that case, I'm sure you understand, but there are some confidential matters I cannot divulge to you. Could you just tell me one thing? Why did you summon me back to Japan?
You fucking faker.
It's been 2 months now since I returned. When I left England, it was because an urgent telegram had arrived from Japan. It said that you'd collapsed with a high fever, and you were growing weaker by the day.
What? Where did that news come from?
That's what I like to know. Because after a long sea voyage, I found you in fine health, Father. Was there something in Great Britain that you perceived might inconvenience me in some way, or harm me? That's really the only explanation I can think of. Dear me. Did you reserve your most cutting glares for your father, Susato? I'm sorry, my dear. I simply can't. Oh, let me go! Oh, it's you. Ha, ha, ha. Many Momo-san!
So, one throw wasn't enough for you?
I've got one last thing to say before they take me away, Professor! Me? I know the truth. I know you had a hand in what went on. In that visiting student's fate. Visiting student? Giselle Brett, you mean? No, not her! The student of law who left for Great Britain 8 months ago! Student of law? He must mean Kazuma-sama. What are you talking about? What does any of this have to do with Kazuma-sama? Nobody here in Japan knows anything about it. They don't know that the guy never made it to England, that he died on that steamship, and that he'll never... Oh my god. I grabbed it just in time. The text box didn't cover it up. When the bailiffs fails, the judge takes over. Well, I didn't expect to find him here. What are you officers playing at?
Terribly sore, Your Excellency!
I know Judge Jitsu. I was coming to tell you that the rickshaws arrived, Yujin. That's a good job, and that's a good job I came by. It's a good job I came by. Yes, thank you for dealing with him, and I'll be there shortly. Oh, Your Excellency. Ha ha ha! The trial's over. I'm not Your Excellency anymore. I'm just Joe. Oh, I didn't expect you to get a name. Merely your father's friend, Shishiro Jigoku. And may I say, since I saw you last, you seem to have taken a more dashing appearance. Susato. Did you know all along? From the start of the trial? Ha ha ha! A judge sees everything, Susato. I couldn't let you take the risk if Shishiro here hadn't known that and then he recognized you. So I had a word in his ear beforehand, as an old friend. So, Shishiro, shall we? Yes, having ruled on that case, we now have various diplomatic issues to address. Before you go, Father! Sorry, my dear. We shall have to return to our earlier conversation at a later date. But well done again, both of you. You did admirably.
Oh, thank you very much!
What do you think of my Shishiro sling, eh? It's been a while since I sent a man flying like that. Ha ha ha! Whatever could Father be hiding from me? About Giselle Brett, about Dr. Wilson, and now it seems, according to the reporter, about Kazuma-sama. I'm going to have to bring this up with Father sometime, when nobody else is around.
Judicial Assistant Mikatoba-san Esquires, could I have a word?
Oh, yes, of course, Uzeki-san. What is it?
I think perhaps it could be fate that we're meeting up again like this now. You see, there's something I need to tell you.
Oh?
I believe that it may be related to the reason why your father summoned you back to England, from England.
This I have to hear. Please, Soseki. Please, Soseki-san, tell me at once.
I will. As you know, my time in England was terrible. Cursed, I have no doubt. Such awful things I was embroiled in. Thank goodness Flocum student Naruhodo-san Esquire stepped in. After he secured my freedom, I couldn't wait to get on his ship back here to my homeland. Having arrived in Japan, I submitted a report about my experiences to the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. The next thing I knew, I had a visitor. It was your father, Professor Mikatoba. He wanted to ask me all sorts of things about my report.
My father?
He seemed especially taken with a particular part of the report. Anyway, he left eventually, having thoroughly quizzed me. But it was the very next day that he sent the telegram to you asking you to return to Japan.
That was it then? The particular part my father was interested in? What was it then? The particular part?
I don't really know exactly. But do you remember them? Those two terrible cases I was caught up in?
Of course, I could never forget.
Your father seemed to concern himself mainly with the second case.
The second one? You mean the one Mr. Sholmes forbade any of us to talk about in public? Which is why the only case involving you that any member of the public is aware of is the first.
Well, I don't care. I don't have to listen to what that dastardly detective says. Anyway, the point is, it seems that the case somehow holds the key to all these curious unanswered questions. That horrific, hideous, heinous case. The case of the haunted lodgings.
That case somehow caused my father to summon me urgently back to Japan? I thought that whole business was over. But it seems I was wrong. Perhaps that was only the start. Perhaps the story is not yet told.
Well, that's a good tease, but I think we've reached the end of our case. Oh, nope, not yet.
So, the mystery of that English woman's death is solved, thank goodness. And having stood in the Supreme Court now, I think I can comprehend a little better. How you must be feeling as you fight for people's freedom in a foreign land, Naruhodo-san. But actually, I'm writing to you today because of another matter. I met Soseki-san and we talked about that second case he was involved in. Father has said nothing to me, but I feel certain of it. That case holds the key to some great unsolved mystery. My notes on the case should still be in the office, tucked away at the back of the shelves on the left. Perhaps you might like to look over them again. Today, for the first time this year, it feels as though summer has arrived. The sky is a brilliant blue. It makes me long to see you again. Yours, Susato.
No, it's to be continued. Game, get it right. All right, guys. Thank you for joining me. End of the game. You got suckered. I mean, I got what I needed out of the first game anyway. All right, guys. Not going to get a stream from us tomorrow as we're going to be busy dealing with Spider-Man stuff. So I hope everyone has a great weekend, and I'll go ahead and pass you on to Lanny, who is still doing some more Devil May Cry 4. Spooderman Homeless, indeed. And I hope everyone has a great weekend, and I'll be back probably Monday or Tuesday to finish off that No Man's Sky expedition. But we will, of course, be back with more great Ace Attorney Chronicles 2 Resolve next Thursday, I think. Maybe Wednesday, because I know Grant is heading out of town. So another dinner time stream, I don't think it's going to be happening. But that's all for the future. That's future us problem. For now, go have fun. Bye-bye.